The night they left me out of the holiday trip, the rain sounded like static on my apartment windows. I had just turned off the TV and was loading the dishwasher, half listening to the hum of the old fridge, when my phone buzzed on the counter. It was my cousin Lila, sending an Instagram story. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, unlocked my phone, and tapped it open. The first frame froze my breath. There they were, my parents, my older sister Maya, my younger brother Theo, lined up in front of a glowing departure board at the airport. Matching red suitcases. Winter coats I'd helped pick out last month. Behind them, a gate sign, Flight 482 to Zurich. Lila's caption was cheerful and oblivious, * family Christmas in the Alps. Airplane snowflake, *. Family. I realized my name didn't seem to fit that word in the same way anymore. My name is Alina Cordova, and for 28 years, I've been the reliable one. The one who picks people up from the airport, not the one left behind staring at their smiling faces on a phone screen. The story advanced to the next clip, a quick video of my mom laughing as my dad struggled with a luggage strap, Maya adjusting her beanie, Theo doing a mock salute to the camera. My stomach tightened. They all looked happy. Relaxed. Like this trip had been planned and savored and anticipated. Without me. My first instinct was that it had to be a mistake. Maybe it was a work thing for Dad, and they'd just come along last minute. Maybe they'd tried to call me and I'd somehow missed it. I checked my notifications, my call log, my messages. Nothing. No missed calls. No texts. Not a single hint. I opened our family group chat, the one we called Cordova Chaos. The last message there was from me, 3 days ago, a photo of the cookies I'd baked and a little note, *, trying out new recipes for Christmas. Any flavor requests for when we all get together? * heart reactions from both my parents. A thumbs up from Theo. A sticker from Maya saying, yum. No one had mentioned a trip. I scrolled upward, as if maybe I'd somehow blacked out an entire conversation. But the chat was just the usual, memes, grocery photos, work complaints. Nothing about plane tickets. Nothing about Zurich. Nothing about leaving me out. The rain tapped a little harder against the window. In the dim kitchen light, my reflection in the glass looked pale and slightly distorted, like a stranger watching me from outside. I typed, deleted, typed again. * you guys at the airport. * I finally sent. The message delivered with a small, indifferent swoosh. I stared at the typing indicator that never appeared, my heart beat loud in my ears over the clink of plates in the sink. My phone stayed silent. On Instagram, Lila's story played on loop, my family boarding a gate I was never invited to. That was the moment the calm shell of my everyday life cracked, not with a scream or a slammed door, but with the quiet, undeniable realization that they had made this choice. They had planned a holiday trip. And they had decided I wasn't part of it. The next morning, the apartment felt wrong. The same gray light pressed through the curtains. The same kettle whistled on the stove. But it was as if someone had shifted the floor a few degrees, and nothing sat where it used to, not my thoughts, not my place in the family, not even my own reflection in the bathroom mirror. I made coffee I couldn't taste and sat at my small kitchen table, the laminate edge cool under my fingertips. My phone lay screen down beside my mug, as if I could mute the world by refusing to look at it. I picked it up anyway. Still nothing in the family chat. But at the top of my screen, the green dot told me my mom was online. The silence was louder than any argument. I thought about the last few years, about how holidays had always gone for us. I'd cover extra shifts at the marketing agency before Christmas to afford nicer gifts. I'd help my parents with their bills when Dad's seasonal work slowed down. When Maya went back to school for her second degree and money got tight, I helped with her textbooks. When Theo crashed his car, I co-signed the loan for the new one. I told myself I didn't mind. I was single, no kids, just a small rented apartment and a reliable paycheck. "You're the strong one," my mom liked to say. "You're so independent, Mija. You'll be fine." Fine had become a kind of tax I paid for being capable. I'd planned to take them somewhere this year. It had been my quiet, secret goal ever since I got my promotion in July. I pictured it so many times, surprising them with tickets, watching my dad's eyes widen, my mom covering her mouth, Maya and Theo teasing me but hugging me afterward. Instead, I was the one surprised. And not even directly, through a tagged story, like any distant acquaintance. My phone finally buzzed. A message from my mom. "Hi, honey. I was going to call you later. We didn't want to bother you. We know how busy you are." Busy. The word felt like a polite lie laid over something sharper. I typed slowly, my fingers oddly steady. "You're in Zurich." Three dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Yes. It was kind of last minute. "Maya found a good deal. We thought with your work and everything, you'd probably pass. And we didn't want you to feel pressured." The careful phrasing wrapped around the wound without acknowledging it. I read her message 3 times. My chest tightened. I could have told her the truth, that I'd been setting aside money, that I'd imagined a holiday for all of us. I could have reminded her how many times I'd rearranged my life for them. Instead, I just stared at the words, "good deal." A good deal was never just about money in my family. It was about who was worth the effort. My dad chimed in, "We'll do something with you when we get back, kiddo. Maybe a nice dinner. You deserve a break." I pictured them in the airport lounge, maybe already boarding. If it was so, last minute, how were their bags perfectly coordinated? How had my cousin known to be there to film them? How did they all get approved for time off? Tiny inconsistencies piled up like snowdrifts in my mind. I wrote back, "Have a safe flight." Then I set the phone down and pressed my palms against my eyes until stars pulsed behind my lids. The stakes weren't just about missing a vacation. It was the realization that somewhere in the calculations of flights and rooms and shared expenses, my family had decided that my presence was optional. That the daughter who always showed up was the easiest to leave behind because she would handle it. Because I was fine. The kettle whistled again on the stove, a thin, rising sound that frayed in the air. I turned it off, listened to the sudden quiet, and wondered, for the first time in my life, what it might look like if I stopped paying the cost of being the strong one. 2 days later, the city was wrapped in that in-between weather, too warm for snow, too cold for comfort. Damp air clung to my scarf as I walked up the familiar path to my parents' house, a paper bag of gifts crinkling in my hand. Their porch light was on a timer, casting a soft yellow cone over the front steps. Through the curtains I could see the glow of the living room lamp, the outline of the couch, the plant I'd bought my mom last Mother's Day. The house looked exactly the same, as if its occupants hadn't flown thousands of miles away. I wasn't there to confront them. Not yet. I told myself I just didn't want the gifts to sit under my tiny apartment tree, reminders of people who'd chosen a different kind of Christmas. I had a spare key. They'd once told me, "This is always your home." The lock clicked in the quiet hallway. Inside, the air smelled faintly of laundry detergent and the vanilla candles my mom loved. A hum from the heater filled the silence. I set the gift bag on the hall table and turned on the kitchen light. That's when I saw it. On the counter, beside a bowl of fruit left to soften and wrinkle, lay a folded stack of papers. Printed. Highlighted. The top page was an itinerary. My heart sped up. I didn't want to snoop. Then again, they hadn't wanted to include me. I glanced at the clock, 11:08 p.m. The house was empty. The only witnesses were the fridge magnets and the ticking wall clock. I drew the papers toward me. At the top, Cordova Family Winter Escape, booking confirmation. The logo of a travel agency. Underneath, for names in bold, Marisol Cordova, Luis Cordova, Maya Cordova, Theo Cordova. No fifth name. My fingers tightened on the page. The booking date was printed near the bottom, booked on August 14. August. 4 months ago. Any lingering hope that this had been a spontaneous decision evaporated. I flipped to the next page, eyes scanning lines of text, hotel reservations, lift passes, a note about connecting rooms. Someone had circled that phrase in blue ink and drawn a smiley face. On the third page, at the bottom, was a handwritten note in my sister's looping handwriting. Asterisk, remember, don't mention the trip around Alina. She'll insist on paying for too much or working extra. Let's just do something small with her later so she doesn't feel bad. Asterisk. A faint smudge on the paper told me my mom's pen had paused there. Maybe she'd hesitated before underlining, small with her later. My eyes burned. I sat down hard on one of the kitchen chairs, the wood cool under my palms as I steadied myself. There it was, in ink and paper, proof it wasn't about my schedule or my busyness. It was choice, carefully discussed and planned. They had decided that managing my feelings after the fact was easier than giving me the chance to be a part of the decision. Something else slipped from the stack, an older email printout, half crumpled, from my own inbox. It was a quote from a travel site I'd requested in July, for a family holiday package for 5. I remembered sending that request on my lunch break, excited, hopeful. At the bottom, in my handwriting, asterisk, check with mom and dad about dates. Surprise them. Asterisk. They must have found it in the printer tray weeks ago. It had been tucked under their final itinerary like a ghost of an alternate reality. I slid my phone from my pocket with numb fingers and took a photo of the note in Maya's handwriting, then of the booking date. The camera shutter sounded too loud in the still kitchen. I opened my email, searched my inbox for Zurich, and there it was, a promotional offer I'd ignored in September, thinking I had more time to plan. A strange, cold clarity settled over me. If they could plan without me, I could plan without them. Back at my apartment later that night, I opened my laptop. The glow of the screen made the room feel sharper, the edges cleaner somehow. I typed in the flight number from their itinerary, checked dates, checked seats. There was one seat left on the return leg and a separate available outbound flight that arrived a few hours after theirs. It was expensive. Not ruinous, but more than I would usually allow myself on a whim. Then I thought of the note, the assumption that I would try to overgive, overfix, oversacrifice. I thought of being preemptively managed like a problem. I booked the ticket. When the confirmation email arrived, I took a screenshot, my name, the dates, the destination. One simple image. Plane ticket, proof, and promise. I stared at it for a long moment, the quiet whir of my laptop fan filling the space, and felt something shift inside me, from hurt to intention. The morning of my flight, the sky over the city was a pale, washed-out blue, the kind that looks almost white from the airplane window. I packed light, a single carry-on, my warmest coat, and a book I wasn't sure I'd read. My hands moved calmly, folding clothes, checking my passport twice. At the airport, the familiar sounds wrapped around me, rolling suitcases on tile, distant announcements, the low murmur of conversations. I passed a family arguing playfully about snacks, a couple taking selfies near the giant holiday tree. The air smelled like coffee and jet fuel and something fried. I checked the departure board. My flight number glowed in neat letters. Destination, Zurich. I didn't plan to stay with my family. I'd booked a small guest house in a neighboring village, somewhere quiet where I could decide what I wanted this holiday to be. The point wasn't to crash their vacation. It was to stop pretending I didn't see what they'd done. Still, I wanted them to see me choose myself, out loud. At the gate, I sat by the window and watched planes taxi against the pale sky. The boarding announcement echoed, starting with the usual priority groups. I waited for the line to thin. Before I joined it, I unlocked my phone and opened the Court of a Chaos group chat. My thumb hovered over the keyboard for a moment. I attached the screenshot of my ticket confirmation, my name, today's date, the same airport code they'd flown from, the same destination. Below it, I typed, asterisk, headed to Switzerland for the holidays. See you around. Asterisk. No accusations. No paragraphs. Just a simple statement. My finger tapped, send. For a second, nothing happened. Then the 2 gray ticks appeared, then turned blue. Someone had seen it. I imagined the time difference, pictured them already in their cozy mountain hotel, maybe eating breakfast, phones on the table. Maya was the first to reply. Asterisk, wait. You're coming here. Why didn't you say anything? Asterisk. I stared at the message, a little incredulous laugh catching in my throat. I stepped into the boarding line as I typed back. Asterisk, kind of last minute. Didn't want you to feel pressured. Asterisk. It took almost no effort to mirror my mother's tone from earlier. The irony tasted oddly clean. My mom wrote next, asterisk, Alina, we didn't plan this to hurt you. It just happened. Maybe we can talk when you arrive. Asterisk. I typed, asterisk, we will. Asterisk, then I put my phone on airplane mode and walked down the jet bridge, the sound of my own footsteps steady and even. The flight was uneventful. Cloud cover swallowed the world for most of the journey. I dozed in fragments, dreaming of half-packed suitcases and snow that never quite reached the ground. When the plane finally descended, breaking through the clouds into a landscape of white peaks and small, orderly houses, my chest tightened, not with pain, but with something like anticipation. At the airport in Zurich, the air felt sharper, cleaner. My breath puffed small clouds in the cool terminal as I walked past decorated shops and blinking holiday lights. I collected my bag, went through customs, and only then turned my phone back on. A cascade of messages poured in. Maya, asterisk, you can stay in our room if you want. We'll ask the hotel. Asterisk. Theo, asterisk, yo, this is wild. Text me where you're at. Asterisk. Mom, asterisk, please don't be upset. It's Christmas. Asterisk. Dad, asterisk, we'll pick you up. Just tell us your hotel. Asterisk. I read them all, standing there in the middle of the arrival hall where people hugged and reunited around me. A little girl ran past, dragging a stuffed reindeer by one leg. Somewhere, someone's laugh echoed bright and clear. I sent my reply to the group chat. Asterisk, I already have a place. I'll be nearby, but I'm doing this trip my way. We can meet tomorrow for a walk. I have something I need to show you. Asterisk. No one argued. A few minutes later, a single message came from my dad, asterisk, okay, kiddo. Tomorrow then. Asterisk, a small, uneasy truce written in text bubbles. That night, in my tiny guesthouse room with its slanted wooden ceiling and view of the mountains, I laid the printed itinerary and Maya's note on the bed beside my own boarding pass and ticket screenshot. 4 rectangles of paper. 4 pieces of a story that finally made sense. Tomorrow, I would line them up for my family to see. Not to punish them. To make sure they could never again pretend they didn't know what they had done. We met in the town square the next afternoon, where a small Christmas market clustered around a stone fountain. Wooden stalls sold hot chocolate and handmade ornaments. The air smelled of cinnamon, wood smoke, and something sweet frying in oil. I saw them before they saw me. My mom wrapped in a cream scarf, my dad adjusting his hat, Maya scrolling on her phone, Theo craning his neck to look up at the mountains. They looked like any other family on vacation. For a moment, I just watched them, letting the sight land in me without distorting it. Then my mom turned and caught my eye. Her face changed. Relief, guilt, and something like fear flashed across it in quick succession. She hurried toward me, her boots crunching softly in the snow. "Alina," she said, reaching for my arms. Up close, I could see the fine lines at the corners of her eyes, the way they glistened. "You made it." "I did," I replied. My voice sounded calm, even to my own ears. Maya and Theo joined us, their steps slower. My dad hovered just behind them, his expression guarded. For a few minutes, we talked about safe things, the cold, the view, the flight. They pointed out their hotel across the square. I showed them a photo of my guest house. The conversation was polite, almost normal, like we were all testing the ice before stepping onto it. Finally, I took a breath and said, "Let's sit." We found a bench near the edge of the square. Snow dusted the wooden slats, and the air nipped at my cheeks. I set my backpack on my lap, unzipped it, and pulled out the folded pages I'd brought. "I found these at the house," I said, my gaze steady. Along with an older printout from my own email. I passed the itinerary to my mom, the note on top. Her fingers trembled slightly as she unfolded it. My dad leaned in. Maya shifted, her jaw tightening as she recognized her own handwriting. "Remember, don't mention the trip around Alina." No one spoke. The sounds of the market drifted around us, a burst of laughter, a bell, the soft hiss of snow being shoveled from a nearby doorway. "I believed you when you said it was last minute," I continued quietly. "I believed you when you said you were worried about my schedule. But this was booked in August. You talked about how I'd react without ever giving me the chance to react. You decided for me." My dad's shoulders sagged. "We didn't want you to overdo it again," he said. "You always try to pay for everything. We thought if we told you, you'd put yourself last like you always do. And instead," I said, not unkindly, "you put me last for me." Maya's eyes were bright, fixed on the paper. "It was my idea," she admitted. "I told them not to tell you until later, so you wouldn't. I don't know, show up with some huge gesture and then burn yourself out. I thought I was protecting you. I thought of all the late nights, the extra hours, the quiet sacrifices. No one had ever asked me if I wanted to do those things. I'd just done them, and they'd accepted it as part of the family ecosystem. In trying to protect me, I said, you cut me out. You made a memory that I'm not part of, and you decided that was better for me than letting me choose for myself." Silence again. The truth hung there, visible and undeniable as the marks on the page. Theo cleared his throat. "Is that why you came?" he asked. "To show us this?" "Partly," I said. I pulled out my own boarding pass stub, then opened my phone to the screenshot of my ticket. "And to show you this. I came because I realized that if you can plan things without me, I can plan things without you. I can choose myself without asking for permission, too." My mom looked at the ticket, then at me. "We're sorry," she whispered. "I am so sorry, Mija. We should have trusted you enough to talk to you. We should have let you in." "I believe you're sorry," I replied. "But I also need you to understand that things are going to be different now. I won't be the automatic fixer anymore. I won't stretch myself thin to make every holiday perfect. If you want me in your plans, you'll have to actually include me. Early. Honestly. Or I'll make my own. My dad nodded slowly, his breath visible in small puffs. Fair, he said. More than fair. Maya's voice was small when she added, I'll delete that note when we get home. I never should have written it. I shook my head. Leave it. Let it remind you of what not to do again. We didn't hug it out in some cinematic sweep. We walked the market together for a while, awkward but genuine, buying hot drinks and watching the snow fall. The fissure between us didn't vanish, but it was no longer invisible. It was something we could walk around carefully, acknowledge, maybe one day build a bridge over. That night, back at my guest house, I laid the papers out one last time on the small wooden desk. The itinerary. Maya's note. My boarding pass. The printed screenshot of my ticket I'd asked the receptionist to help me with. Then I folded the itinerary and the note into a neat square and slid them into the back of my journal, not as wounds to reopen, but as records of a boundary finally drawn. My boarding pass and ticket screenshot I kept in the front pocket, a reminder of the day I chose myself loudly enough that the people I loved had to hear it. Outside my window, snow fell softly onto dark roofs. In the reflection on the glass, my face looked tired, but there was something new there too, an ease around the eyes, a quiet certainty in the set of my mouth. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like the strong one holding everyone else up. I just felt like myself. And that, I realized, was more than enough.